Seeing the Grand Canyon from the bottom looking up is just unreal.
Kayla brought a blanket and I did not, and I regretted that so much.
You want high protein, high salt. When you hike into it, it's like you're actually experiencing that wonder.
Please use the helicopter and not the walls.
Don't double pack anything. Like pack one long sleeve shirt, one pair of leggings.
Almost no one knows that.
But if you don't have some sort of plan, I think you could end up wasting a lot of time and or a lot of money by just trying to figure out what to do and what's around you.
Hey guys, welcome back to the How Was Your Trip podcast, where we unravel the world one interview at a time. Today, we have part 2 of my conversation with Kayla Range. As we talked for so long, we had to split it up into 2 parts. So last week, we talked about the Route 66 part of our road trip. So if you have not seen that, go check that out. And today, we are diving into all things Havasu and Grand Canyon. Kayla and I spent 2 nights, 3 days at the bottom of the Grand Canyon, hiking, exploring, camping, and seeing the beauty of the Havasu Falls. We talk about packing tips, hiking tips, parking tips, where to stay the night before. We give you every single piece of advice that we can think of to help you make this trip attainable. Now, if you didn't listen to last week, I know the audio on these 2 episodes is not the best. Kayla and I recorded for an hour and a half before we realized that our mics were not working. So the bad audio is only last week and this week, and I promise next week it's gonna be back to normal. So if you can't get past the production quality, I'm so sorry, but I think most of you guys are probably here for the good travel tips. So come along with me today and let's all learn about Havasu Falls.
You ready to dive into Havasu?
Yes, the best part of the trip.
The best part of the trip. Okay, tell me what even is Havasu?
Havasu is waterfalls that I think I don't know if the Indian tribe owns it, but it's their land. But waterfalls at the bottom of the Grand Canyon that you can hike and stay down there and explore. Basically, there's a whole bunch of waterfalls, like natural, like rivers.
There has been almost no one that I know of that when I tell them there's an Indian reservation at the bottom of the Grand Canyon, they're like, oh yeah, I know that. Like almost no one knows that.
And they like their mail is delivered by a donkey.
Yeah, I mean there's churches down there.
Yeah, like a school.
Yeah, restaurants.
Cute little like town with a garden and a little.
An entire town.
Yeah, at the bottom, like because you hike 10 miles into the Grand Canyon and then you hit that little town, but it's still another like 2.5, 3 miles to like to the actual place that you camp.
So it's 8 miles to the village and then 2 more to the campground.
But then you have to still hike farther into the campground.
Yeah, to find
a spot because obviously people like first we get there, stop and set up.
Yeah.
So you have to like keep going a little bit farther.
Yeah. So I think we started at 6 a.m. and I think we were at the campsite by 10 a.m.
Yeah, it took us about like right at 4 hours.
But you have to stop in the village and check in. You cannot go to the Havasu Falls without a camping permit. And we were able to go when it was 3-day, 2-night was an option, but I don't even think that's an option anymore. I think you have to go 3-night, 4-day now. So there's no in and out day backpacking.
Well, we talk about if we were to ever do it again, I recommend like we would go to the 4-day, 3 nights because it is a hard hike and like you think the hardest thing you've ever done physically, like we both said the hardest thing we've ever done is hike down into the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Until we hike out of the Grand Canyon. But, you know, at that point, you're like, holy crap, I just like did the hardest hike of my life. And you get there, and of course you want to explore and you want to go see the waterfalls and everything, but you're also physically exhausted. You need food. There is a little spot to get like hot food, with, like burgers and fries or grilled cheese. Like it's kind of like your last stop for like real food before you get into the village because you hike everything that you're going to eat in and hike it out. So you're bringing, like, it's kind of your last chance to get, like, a real meal before you're going into the canyon for...
So we were really new to backpacking, so I do think we could have packed lighter than we did. But our packs were about 33, 34 pounds each. And that didn't even include a tent. We didn't even bring a tent.
Oh, we just, you know, we ditched the tent and we were like, it's not going to rain.
If we went back with husbands, I think definitely a tent. But I
didn't love sleeping in the Eno. I think, with husbands, if you were like trying to sleep with someone, like I would not have wanted to like double up in, you know? That was, but for us, it was really nice. And we get to see the stars at night. It is cold, so like that, you know, the temperature does drop so much at night. I was really thankful I brought a blanket and layers. I ended up putting on all of my layers every single night.
We definitely could have packed a lot lighter. We were very new to backpacking at the time. That was our first real like backpacking camping trip we had done.
Not my first. I've camped like plenty of times.
Yeah,
but it's different.
backpacking.
Yeah, backpacking and camping because I've always driven like where I can bring out
same.
like I can bring what I need to like in a car or something or
Yeah.
a tent. But having to carry in everything that you need, I mean, now all of a sudden every single thing you bring is weight. So like every snack bar, every shampoo bottle, like every extra pair of clothing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think basics for like hiking to Havasu. Water, you need a ton of water. You can refill when you're down there, but
Once you get into Havasu, that you have
Yes.
like you're hiking completely on with what you brought, and that's where you need to make sure you have waters because you want to stop and hydrate. Like you need to stay hydrated while you're hiking.
and there's no water at the trailhead, which a lot of trailheads do have a water station, a bathroom or something. This one has nothing. So what?
Nothing. It's literally the top of a mountain.
Food for your entire 3 days. There, like you mentioned, there is a hut that you can go get food at, but the hours are super weird. They're very
Yes.
unreliable. So if that is what you're hoping for, you might starve.
Yeah, it's definitely not because it wasn't open all three, like all the 3 days that we were. It was only
Right.
open one of the days that we
Right.
were there. Thankfully, it was like our second day, and we ended up paying like $25-$30 for a hot burger and a Gatorade and a cold Gatorade. But it was so needed because you're so physically spent. You're spending so many calories hiking, and I think just food in general. I think we overpacked a little bit on food too. Because like you want to pack enough so you're not hungry, but at the same time, I also think I am not someone who necessarily eats a ton of like healthy granola bars and like healthy protein.
Yeah.
Camping stuff generally, I had high expectations for myself that like doing this experience, like I would want that, but really I wanted more of like my Cheez-Its and my goldfish.
I brought
Like
dried fruit. I don't even eat dried fruit.
Yeah,
at
like
home.
exactly. I think we had expectations that we were going to be these backpack eaters.
Yeah.
And when we got down there, I mean, like it was nice to have like the beef jerky steaks, like the protein stuff, like. But really, I wish I would have packed more like PB&Js, like peanut butter crackers, stuff that I was normally used to eating. But you want high protein, high salt because you're sweating.
Yeah.
Or even if you're not like super sweaty, you're still like you still need those electrolytes and that salt back in your body. So
that's what we recommend for food. Water for sure. I think layers. We tried to take into account how cold it would be, but it was even colder than we thought it was going to be. It's like 10 degrees colder than what it is at the top of the canyon. And then at night, it dropped so much. Kayla brought a blanket, and I did not. And I regretted that so much.
it was my saving grace. It was a very thin felt, like super thin, like not a lot of a blanket, but I was able to roll it up really tightly and pack it in my bag. And I ended up laying it down on my Eno, so it was like my base layer to my Eno, because that to me was what, like, I was getting cold. Like, I was getting cold because the underneath of your Eno is so thin that, like, when that wind comes, it's like, whoo, Richie, she's cold. So, like, having that blanket, I feel like really helped insulate my Eno, and then, like, you cocoon your Eno, like, obviously completely around you, and it kind of keeps the heat in. Your breath starts to, like, warm it up a little, and I was very thankful I brought a blanket. I don't think you need a big one. You just need some kind of, like, base layer.
Yeah, that was
even if you were camping, I would say, or even if you had a tent, you want something to lay on the ground, because, again, that ground gets cold. You need some kind of layer between your body and wherever you're going to be sleeping, because I think that helped hugely. And I also just packed a long sleeve. Like, I started my hike in just a regular long sleeve that I wore over a workout tank. And I think that was perfect because it packed a lot, like, more compact than a sweatshirt would have, but gave me sort of the same effect. And it was like a good light layer to hike in, because when you're hiking, you start off and it's really cold. Like, you need leggings and like a long sleeve on, because it's cold when you start the hike. But then by the time it's 9:30, 10 o'clock, that sun comes up, you're ending your hike, you're like, oh, I'm hot, and I need to get all these layers off. Another big thing is I loved having my chacos to switch into, because the last, like, that between the village and the actual campsite, that, like, last 2 miles is through, like, sand. Like, red sand almost. And hiking in my shoes, the sand was getting, like, built up in my sneakers, and it was the most uncomfortable thing. So when I switched to my chacos for that last leg, and, like, it was just so much more comfortable for me. So and then we ended up wearing our chacos, like, all to hike the waterfalls, because you're hiking through water. Obviously, you don't want socks and shoes on. So I'd recommend, like, a true hiking shoe, and then, like, some kind of water sandal hiking situation. Not a flip flop, so it's gonna attach to your foot, but
I 100% agree. I think
I love having, and just a change of shoes. Like it is like an extra bulky thing to pack, but worth it. And chocolates, I think we just ended up keeping them on the outside of our bags. We didn't even have to like, put them inside.
So clothes, food, water, external batteries were really big.
Yeah.
There's not going to be anywhere, obviously, to charge your camera equipment, your phones. You don't have service in the canyon, so it's not like you're going to be on your phone a lot, but if you're listening to music while you're hiking, you definitely are going to want something to charge your battery with. Flashlights, because we started our hike out still in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to want a flashlight or a headlamp. I think we had headlamps, and I think that was really helpful.
Yeah.
And a small pack for when you're in the canyon and you're hiking. Because obviously you're bringing in your really big backpack.
Yeah,
So-
like a small little backpack.
Yeah,
Yes.
having a day pack for the days that you're in the canyon and you're wanting to explore. Like we went to Mooney Falls, which were a couple miles, Beaver Falls, which were a couple of miles.
Everything you hike in the canyon, you get into the canyon that's 10 miles, but then you hike further in to explore all the waterfalls. And you still need, like, you don't want to have to be hiking back for lunch every time. So, like, we needed to pack waters, some snacks, like Band-Aids, honestly, like a little bit of, like, emergency medical, like, emergency first aid, stuff like that. So you want something to, carry all, like, your day-to-day things. And
Okay, I feel like that, you mentioned first aid, I feel like that's something a lot of people don't know is that, like, they will not come get you out of the Grand Canyon. If you are injured, you have to be on your deathbed for them to come get you out of the Grand Canyon.
And you still have to make it back to that original town. Like, they can't helicopter down into where you actually camp. You have to make it back, because there is an option to take a helicopter to Havasu. But they drop you off at that town. You still have to hike the last 2 miles. Like, you're not getting dropped exactly where you're going to be camping.
Right. I know I had been to the Grand Canyon once before, and my guide there had mentioned that, like, he had someone get bit by a scorpion, and, like, his legs weren't working, and 911 was like, can you carry him out? And he was like, I mean, I guess in theory, and they're like, all right, you better start carrying. Like, they will not come get you in the Grand Canyon. All right. Do you want to talk about the helicopters?
I think you should take the lead on this. You know way more about it.
Okay, so you have a couple options to get to Havasu. You can hike down, like everyone should, and with all your stuff. You can helicopter down with all your stuff, or you can hike down and put your stuff on the helicopter, or you can hike down and put your stuff on the mule. I personally think it is the most rewarding thing when you hike everything down and you get to the bottom and you see these beautiful, wonderful falls. I understand there are some people that cannot hike all their stuff down due to physical disabilities. I think they are the exception, and they can throw their packs on the helicopters. I think if you cannot hike all your stuff down, you should be packing lighter, or you should be getting in better shape. However, if you are like, I am dying to see Havasu and I cannot carry my stuff down, please, 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 use the helicopter and not the mules. The mules are not taken the best care of. The Supai tribe is on its own Indian reservation, and for those of you that don't know, Indian reservations have their own laws, their own legal system, and so they don't have to follow all the procedures that the rest of America does. In some ways, that's really amazing. In some ways, it's not that amazing. And so they just don't treat their mules how they should. And I won't get into too many details, but Kayla and I just witnessed a lot of things that made me really, really, really encourage people to either hike it down yourself or use the helicopter if you must. But I think it was so rewarding to carry everything down. It wasn't even, I think it was like $30 to throw your pack on the helicopter. It wasn't even that much.
I don't remember how much it is. I definitely completely agree with you that unless you are physically, literally physically disabled in a way that you can't hike your things in, like, you should hike them down. And I think, like what you said, if you can't, you should either get a pack lighter or get in better shape. We weren't in the best, we didn't train for it, and we still were able to do it with, heavy-ish packs. I wouldn't say that we're, the most out-of-shape people either, so we weren't starting from ground zero, but we didn't train for this, and we were able to do it. There's also no time limit on how long it takes you to hike. You can pull off and take a break. It's just going to take you longer to get there. You're obviously not trying to spend your whole day hiking down there. You like to get there with the rest of the day to still do things. But that being said, it is 100% more rewarding. Like there is nothing, especially like the coming out feeling when you literally like hike all your stuff in, spend the days, like, hike during while we're down there, and then when you hike out and getting out of the switchbacks with all your stuff and just getting to the top and like getting your pack off and like being like, oh my god, I made it back out. It's like I started crying. Like I could not.
She did.
I was like, oh my god, because truthfully, like those switchbacks, the last little bit of the Grand Canyon, I thought like, what if I can't even get out of here? Like I don't know. But you know, you keep walking, you keep on going, you can. It's just
the
mentally
best
and stuff.
feeling ever. And
It's so rewarding.
Yeah.
It is a hard. It's a hard thing to do. It's physically taxing. It's a physically hard task, and being able to complete that and having like it is so much more rewarding to hike your stuff in and hike your stuff out.
Yeah,
100%.
I agree, and I think that's one of the best things about hiking is that rewarding feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go into too many details about the permit system because I do think it's changed since we went. I think it's a lottery system now. When we went, pricing was $300 to $400 depending on the day of the week and the season. But I do think that's changed. But what I do want to talk about is what to expect once you get there, but before you start hiking. So where did we stay? And then talk about maybe like the drive in and what to expect with that and prepping for that.
I'm so glad we stayed in the hotel that we did. We touched on it a little bit when we were talking stop by stop, but there's only like one hotel even within an hour of driving distance to the trailhead, and it's definitely worth it. Again, it's not 5 hotels staying. Like you're not getting the best room you'll ever get, but you want a pillow, you want a bed, you want some place to kind of like get your stuff ready, get yourself organized, and then you literally drive out to like the cliff of a mountain, and you park next to falling rocks, next to a cliff of the mountain. Like it's not very organized, not very like there's no parking space. It's just kind of like a free for all. You just pull up. You drive off this street in the middle of nowhere. Like it's so dark, you can't see anything, and you literally just like drive this one road for like 45 minutes to the edge, and then you park, and then you get out and start walking down.
Yeah. So I'd say some tips to take away from that are: 1, stay at the Grand Canyon Caverns. It's expensive for what you get, but it is the location that you're paying for.
Yes, because it is the only hotel even within an hour. Like everything else is a good 2 hours out, and you're already getting to the trail. That's another thing. You want to get to the trailhead so early because the earlier you get, the less people are there. Mm-hmm. It's less like crowded when you're walking. The earlier you'll get to the site or to Havasu, so you'll have more time there during the day. So having to get up and like drive 2 hours and that be part of your wake window almost, like you're spending your energy on not hiking. Yeah. And like we said multiple times, this is no joke on the hike.
Right. Like number 2, you mentioned it's really dark. We had to avoid multiple animals.
Yes.
There were elk, there were cow, there were deer. So you have to be really mindful when you're driving that one long road to the trailhead. That one road is 45 minutes. And so you do have to be very careful on that. Number 3, parking. Where you parked was really crucial. You just kind of had to
wing it. Like it really was. And then they have signs that beware, falling logs.
Right. Okay, and then number 4, when you get out, make sure you take a photo of your license plate because when you check in at the village, which is 8 miles into the canyon, they're going to ask you your license plate number. So you better know it, otherwise you're going to be hiking back out 8 miles to check your license plate. And then the 5th piece of advice I would give is make sure your tank of gas is full. Oh my goodness, I did not understand how serious people were about this, but there is no gas station for over an hour near the trailhead, and there were multiple cars when we got out that did not have enough gas to get back, and so they were having to they have kind of made a business off of it, of taking people to get gas because they have realized enough hikers
don't come prepared. If you don't know, and honestly that's kind of rule of thumb with this entire road trip, is to be aware of your gas. Yeah. Like we were we never let it get beneath half a tank because there are instances even in Texas where you will go like 300 miles without seeing a gas station. Like it's not uncommon. So like if you're not filled up, you easily could run out of gas in a spot that you have no one, there's no one to call, where you don't even know where the nearest gas station is, and that's definitely Havasu. Like, there is nothing around there. It's literally in the middle of nowhere. Like that hotel's the only thing. And so if you don't plan ahead of time, you don't know that, and you think you're gonna get out and I have half a tank left. I can find a gas station. Like, no, it's not close
I'm
enough.
pretty sure we started the drive towards the trailhead, and I think we had to turn around because we did the math and we were like, we're not going to have enough gas to get back. So we realized that on the front end, but praise God, otherwise we would have been those people stuck paying people to go get us gas.
Yes.
So that's a big tip that I don't think enough people talk about.
Definitely. And the license plate, that's a really good thing to know too. Because like some people know their license plate, but if you don't, like you're SOL.
Well, and like we remember we got stopped between the village and the waterfalls, those 2 miles. We got stopped by one of their law enforcement officers.
Asking for permits and stuff.
Yes,
yeah.
we had to show them our permits, we had to show them our license, and we had to give them our license plate number. So definitely have all of that prepared. Okay, and then staying in the canyon. We didn't mention because we didn't do it, but there is a lodge down there if you want that experience. Did you not know that?
No, I didn't even know there was a lodge experience.
Yes. So in the village, there is the Supai Lodge. And when we went, I don't know what the pricing is now, but it was $550 to stay there. You've got Wi-Fi, you've got hot showers, but
that's literally more than we spent on our whole trip. So
yeah, it was not in our budget. But if you are wealthier than we were in college, then maybe you could take up that.
I don't know. I think even if I had the money to stay, there was still something about camping in like at the falls, because that village is still like not at the falls. Like you have not reached Havasu when you reach the village. Like,
which the village is so cool.
It is, but it's not. You have not even seen a waterfall yet. You've not even seen water.
Right.
So you keep hiking, and that's when you see the falls. Then you hike down into the campsite, pick your spot, and then from there you hike even further into the canyon to get to Moody Falls, Beaver Falls. And these places aren't just like a waterfall. They have like wooden ladders attached to the rocks and like ropes that you climb down. It's so unique, and like little like peg bridges that you can walk over for the streams, and it is such a cool place to explore. And you can spend so much time just exploring deeper into the canyon, and that's all further like miles past the village, miles past the lodge. Right. All of that is farther in than you're gonna get when you stay at the lodge. So I almost like why would you go down? Right. Why would you go down to the bottom of the canyon to stay in a lodge?
I agree. I'm on the same page as you.
I don't know. Like, if you're gonna do that, like, just go stay in a lodge outside of the Grand Canyon, don't pay $550 and like have that experience. To me, the Havasu experience is the hike, is the waterfalls, is seeing, and seeing all that in nature. Yeah. Seeing the Grand Canyon from the bottom looking up is just unreal. Like,
I've never experienced anything like it.
It's unreal, and if you're not gonna do that, then like I don't really see why you're.
The Grand Canyon, I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm from Alabama, but it is one of the most underrated places in America. I know people go up there, so people are probably like, Sarah, it's not.
It's very rated.
But I don't know. I
don't think a lot of people go into the Grand Canyon. I think they see it from the top, and it is very awe-inspiring from the top.
1% go into the Grand Canyon that visit the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, I mean, that's no one. And that was, like, that part, like, that was the experience. Yeah. Like, I think it seems like an underrated experience when you just look at it from the top. Because it is, like, it's kind of like Antelope Canyon, like, super pretty, crazy to look at.
Yeah. When
you hike into it, it's like you're actually experiencing that wonder. You're, like, putting feet to the dirt. You are, like, you're staying down there. You're seeing it from the ground up. Yeah. And you're seeing the vastness of it. The tallness of these rocks. The, like, deepness of how far back it goes. The fact that these huge waterfalls are at the bottom of the canyon. Like, they're still... Like, we hiked down to the bottom or to the top of the waterfall. Yeah. That's crazy.
It blew my mind.
And
do you have a favorite experience, like a favorite moment in the Grand Canyon?
Honestly, I love, like, hiking over, like, the streams and stuff. Like, when we were, like, hiking through the water and there was all those, like, really cool, cute bridges that were, like, just literally, like, wooden boards, like, nailed onto some tree trunks. Like, I loved that. I think that was so much fun. And like climbing through the rocks and going down the ropes and stuff, like that's so my vibe. That's something I love. And
I definitely felt a little like Indiana Jones, like going down the ladders on the side.
Yes.
Like it was honestly, it was so dangerous, but it was so fun.
Speaking of, we this is where the story of getting off track again. We suck at directions and we're like, oh, it looks like a pathway. So we're following trails, exploring paths, and all of a sudden, like, we see people walking probably like 10 feet above us, like on a cliff, and we're like ours isn't looking much like a path anymore. Like, I wonder how we get back up there. And so instead of trying to figure out or backtrack our stats, we're like, we can just scale the mountain. We'll just climb up.
I told Ryan that a couple weeks ago. He was like, I've never heard that part of the story. I'm like, no, Kayla was above me literally kicking boulders onto my head.
Yeah, I'd recommend being the first one up the mountain, not the second.
The second was horrible.
We made it up, but yeah, I literally remember being like, you keep kicking rocks at me. I can't do this.
Okay, obviously.
But we did make it up to the trailhead, and we got back on the path.
Obviously, the whole experience in the Grand Canyon was amazing. But what, if you have a least favorite moment or a most challenging moment, what would you say that was?
You're gonna laugh. Maybe the water being cold again.
Oh my goodness.
If I had a my way, the water could have been like 5 degrees warmer. I mean, we were sitting more at like the 70, 75, but again, like I don't know if it gets any warmer there. I'm not privy to all the weather patterns of Boston and the Grand Canyon, but it still like wasn't the warmest weather outside. Like it was warm. We were in swimsuits, which speaking of packing list, you need a swimsuit and you need shorts, or just like something to hike in that's water friendly. But so like it was really fun to swim, but again, like the water was a little chilly, but it was a lot warmer on that day, and the water wasn't as cold as Blue Hole, so it wasn't that same experience. But the water was just a tad bit warmer.
I do think those switchbacks really got you on the way out.
Yeah, I mean that was
There were
definitely
like,
most
we were
challenging.
joking about tears, but there were legit tears.
Yes, and so Sarah's also an endurance runner. She is like cross country, like
We just
endurance
hike
runner.
differently.
Yes, she is like a power through. I'm just gonna keep going.
And
And
rest
we
of
just
the
had to
top.
until she got to the top. I needed to like take a breather every like 3 switchbacks. Like not a long one. Like I needed to like stop and like take a 15-minute breath. But I needed to like stop and like catch my breath, take a sip of water, and keep going. And Sarah was like, I'm just gonna power
And
through.
if I
And I was
stop-
like, meet me at the top. Like we have different ways of doing this. Like I can't do your way, you can't do my way. And see another great example.
But
of
that's
just
why it
do you.
Yeah.
Like yes, I'll see you at the top. Like we're both going to
Because
the same
if I
destination.
stop after 3 switchbacks, it is so hard for me to get going.
Keep going again.
Especially with the weight on my back. And so I think that just knowing that we hike differently, knowing our styles, and knowing that it's okay that we hike differently. Like it's okay that I'm bolting ahead of you, and it's okay that you're not keeping up with me.
Yeah, and this wasn't like we weren't hiking in. Like this was the last leg. Like this was the last.
We
thing
just
that
had to get
doing.
out.
We just had to get out, and that was the hardest part of
Yes.
the entire hike. Of hiking in general was those switchbacks coming out. Because it is like straight incline.
Yeah.
For I don't know how many miles do you think is the switchbacks at the end?
Maybe a mile.
But it's like a straight
Yeah.
incline up.
You want to play a little this or that?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, hang on. I wanted to say one more thing about the packing.
Oh, yes.
Don't pack doubles of anything. Like,
No.
like truthfully, like you're getting wet. You might be a little gross, or you might feel weird about. Like, if don't double pack anything. Like, pack one long sleeve shirt, one pair of leggings. Just rewear it. You're only there for 3 or 4 days. Like, just know you're gonna not be your most hygienic self. And pack one of everything, one swimsuit, one pair of shorts, and just rewear.
It was
Because-
so dumb to bring multiple swimsuits.
Yeah, we did not need that. Like, you just don't need it. Like, pack one of everything that you'll need. Maybe 2 pairs of underwear and socks. Like, the only thing you should pack additional of is socks and because even like sports bras, I really feel like you could probably just pack one for the day and one for
But
the day
socks,
out.
you do need new socks.
Yes, extra socks, and get good hiking socks. Invest in good hiking socks. That's another thing that I do think like made a difference in hiking is good hiking socks. But like I think we overpacked a little bit on clothes, thinking that we were gonna get dirtier or like need a second set of something, but you don't.
Yeah.
You really don't. Honestly, I think we just swapped our shirts and hiked out in each other's shirts.
I think we did. Okay, before we play this or that, what advice would you give to someone who was looking to do Havasu or considering doing it?
The passes I think is like one of the hardest things to do. So if you can get, like, let's say you're getting your hands on your passes and like you're scheduled to go, I would say my biggest tip would be to pack light and hike your stuff in and out because it really is the best experience.
And then someone who's looking to do Route 66 as a road trip, what advice would you give them?
To go with you or use our itinerary. I didn't have to do anything or any part of the planning, so that was like great for me.
Our itinerary was pretty good.
In all seriousness, my advice would be pick a good person to go with, someone that you're comfortable with, and plan. I think some trips are go with the flow, but I think with Route 66, you're covering so much ground, so much like you're covering so much ground on this road trip that if you don't have some sort of plan, you're going to get lost in the drive and lost in the States. And I think you could end up wasting a lot of time and or a lot of money by just trying to figure out what to do and what's around you. We kind of already knew that going in. So we weren't like, oh, like Cadillac Ranch is coming open. It's 45 minutes back. Let's loop around and do that real quick.
Right.
Like we knew our structure, we knew our plan. I think when you're trying to cover that much ground, I know some people have their spontaneous trips, and we're not really like that. We are more like type A planners, so we thrive more in that environment. But I do think with big road trips, especially on a not very populated route, it was good to have some structure to our plans.
Yeah. All right, you ready for some of this or not?
Yes.
Road trip edition. All right, so fast food or gas station snacks?
Probably gas station snacks.
Music or podcast?
Music.
Music or audiobooks?
Music. Yeah, because I think audiobooks are too particular. Like, you're writing with someone else, unless you're both really interested in that audiobook.
I agree. It's hard to do with other people.
Yeah.
All right, car camping or hotel?
It depends on where you're at. I think I want to say hotel. I think you find cheap hotels, and like car camping unless you're like desperate. I don't know, I'm against sleeping in the car, but if you could find, we found a lot of. I think this trip proved that you can find a lot of cheap Airbnbs, cheap motels for $10-15. You get a comfortable place to sleep. You get out of your car. You're already staying in your car for so much of a road trip because you're driving. So kind of getting a change of scenery is nice.
I agree. Windows up or down?
Down.
And when you're the passenger, awake or asleep?
Both. Both. I think that's a privilege that you, like, I think it depends on who's driving you.
Yes, I agree.
Like, with Connor, I'm very much like, I take advantage of, like, he wants to listen to music. We not necessarily, are chatting up a whole storm while we're driving anyway, so I sleep more. But I think with us, there was, less of the driver or the passenger sleeping, unless it was almost like it's your turn to drive and we're getting up really early, so I'm going to finish sleeping, and I'm taking, the night shift. Unless it was, we knew it was, a nap time where, the other person needed to catch up on sleep. I think we stayed awake for each other.
You have to read the room a little bit.
Yeah, and
does the driver need me to be awake or want me to be awake? And if they don't care, then I'd rather sleep.
Yeah, and sometimes it is nice when the passenger's asleep, and you get full, the radio's all yours. That is kind of that space without space. When you don't have any space to give each other, one person sleep and one person listen to your music.
Yes, I love that. All right, well, the final question of the podcast, where to next for Kayla Range?
If my people stop getting married, I can maybe travel again. But right now we're in wedding season. So I have Dallas and the beach coming up for 2 weddings. But next year we have something big planned.
I cannot wait.
We are doing the Mongolian Railroad.
In Jesus' name.
Yes, in Jesus' name. And hopefully we get, everything plays out the way we want it to. But 2025, we're back together again. And this time the hubbies.
Yep.
Dragging the hubbies along with us. So.
All right. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
It was so much fun. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys, there you have it. That was the entirety of Kayla's and my conversation pertaining to Route 66 and Havasu. If you guys have any other questions, we would love to answer them either on our social media, our YouTube, or you can email us at howisyourtrippodcast@gmail.com. If you love this episode, please let us know by liking, commenting, subscribing, following all the podcast things so that we can continue doing this. We really appreciate everyone who's been listening, and I can't wait to see you guys back in 2 weeks. Bye, guys.